At the turn of every decade, a quiet ritual remakes the map of our lives. Doors open, questions are asked, names, ages, relationships, and addresses are recorded. From these small details, nations draw their strength, their budgets, their political voice. This is the census, the simplest instrument of power and planning, and one of the most consequential. It decides where roads bend and where schools rise, how hospitals stock beds and how parliaments are drawn. Miss a family on a single street, and a town can lose funding for 10 years. Miscount a city, and a nation can lose a seat in its legislature. The stakes are immediate, and they echo for a generation. The practice is ancient. In the 6th century before the Common Era, Rome's legendary king Servius Tullius orders citizens counted, ranks them by wealth, and organizes the army. The census becomes a civic right, an oath to the state, and a ledger of obligation. A millennium later, in 1086, a conqueror named William seeks to tax a conquered land. His bureaucrats cross England, tallying manors and mills into the Domesday Book, a vast inventory binding peasants and lords to the crown. Far to the east, in the year 2 Anno Domini, the Han dynasty completes one of history's most remarkable counts: 59,594,978 people across Imperial China, an astonishing number for the ancient world. Across empires, the message is the same: to govern, you must know who is there. Modern democracies inherit this logic and give it new purpose. In 1790, just after the Revolution, the United States conducts its first census under Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution. Marshals on horseback enumerate 3.9 million people, counting free and enslaved residents alike, a grim arithmetic that will shape representation and taxation. As the Republic grows, the census becomes a mirror, revealing a restless nation pushing west, industrializing, urbanizing. By 1911, the U.S. House of Representatives is fixed at 435 seats, and every decennial count triggers reapportionment. In 2010, those numbers steer hundreds of billions of federal dollars. By 2020, the population reaches roughly 331 million, and the state schools funded, clinics staffed, highways paved are measured in lives, not just ledger lines. But how does a census work? At its heart is a simple question: where do you usually live? Some countries count people where they are on census night, the de facto approach. Others, following de jure practice, count people at their usual residence, even if they're traveling, working offshore, or away at school. In the months before counting day, governments build an address register, mapping each dwelling: a cottage down a gravel lane, a 10th-floor apartment, a farmhouse beyond a dry riverbed. Questions are tested and retested, simple enough to answer, precise enough to be useful, respectful enough to build trust. On the appointed day, the count begins. Enumerators fan out with clipboards, tablets, or smartphones. Forms arrive by mail, portals open online. In 1940, Americans answered door to door, with enumerators recording occupations and wages. In 2011, India's enumerators reached the Himalayas and the Thar Desert, as part of a decennial tradition whose modern, synchronous form dates to 1881. In 2021, many countries blended online self-response with field follow-up, a strategy that would have been science fiction a generation earlier. Accuracy is a craft and a battle. Some households reply twice, others not at all. Children under 5 are easy to miss, as are renters, migrants, and people in informal settlements. Statisticians deploy address canvassing, dual system estimation, and non-response follow-up to fill gaps, scanning apartment buzzers and knocking at dusk. When the hardest to reach are most likely home, privacy is vital. In the United States, Title 13 of the U.S. Code forbids sharing personally identifiable information, with severe penalties. Other nations enforce similarly strict confidentiality laws. Data is then anonymized, aggregated, and released in tables and maps that planners, researchers, and citizens can use without exposing any individual household. Why does this matter? Because the census is the bloodstream of representation. Seats in the U.S. House shift after each census. Gain 1 million here, lose 500,000 there, and one state gains a voice while another falls silent. Boundaries are redrawn, ideally to reflect equal population, and the integrity of democracy hangs in that arithmetic. Beyond politics, the numbers move money. In one decade, they steer hundreds of billions of dollars in education grants, health programs, housing vouchers, and infrastructure projects. A miscount doesn't just mean smaller numbers on a spreadsheet. It means longer ambulance routes, crowded classrooms, and understaffed clinics. The census is also a ledger of human possibility. It tells a mayor where to site a fire station, an epidemiologist where to send vaccines, a business where to open a grocery in a food desert. It preserves family stories for historians and genealogists, capturing a nation at 10-year intervals who lived together, how they worked, when they moved. It shows patterns of migration after wars, booms that build steel towns and busts that empty them, the aging of a neighborhood, the pulsing growth of a metropolis. In the United Kingdom, the 1841 census marked the rise of industrial cities. In Brazil, mid-century counts traced the pull of São Paulo. In Nigeria, competing counts reveal the challenges of rapid urbanization and the politics of region and religion. Yet the census carries a warning from history. Information is power, and power can be abused. Modern statistical systems respond with firm walls, legal protections, secure data centers, disclosure control techniques that blur tiny cells and suppress small counts. The goal is a paradox: to see clearly at the scale of communities, while protecting the privacy of each person behind the numbers. As night falls on Census Day, a final envelope is dropped in a mailbox, a last online form is submitted, and an enumerator tucks away a tablet. The country becomes, for a moment, a ledger of who we are. Then the real work begins. Data are cleaned, matched, and measured. Undercounts are estimated, results are certified. Legislatures shift, budgets flow. A rural clinic keeps its doors open. A school hires a new teacher. A bus line extends to a neighborhood that has waited too long. When the next decade arrives, the questions will be asked again. The world changes, cities swell, climates shift, borders and livelihoods bend under new pressures. But the census endures, a periodic heartbeat. It demands something simple and profound, that we show up and be counted. Because when we do, we make visible the communities we love, we claim the representation we are owed, and we shape, with quiet answers, the public future we will all inhabit.